Let me ask you a question. What do you think separates you from the people you admire most? Is it talent, luck, education? No. It's not what they have, it's what they do with what they have. And more specifically, how they use the same 24 hours you and I are given every single day. The clock doesn't care about your background, your story, your excuses. Every person on this planet wakes up with the exact same currency of time, but here's the difference. Successful people, the ones who lead, grow, and conquer, they use time, they don't spend it. They don't wait for motivation. They build discipline. They don't run from hard choices, they make them. And if you want to change your life, if you want to step into your potential, then it starts by owning your 24 hours like your life depends on it, because it does. They don't manage time, they command it, right? And when I was born, my parents, that's the difference. That's the shift that separates average from extraordinary, the mediocre from the unstoppable. Most people live their days reacting. They wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, checking their phones, responding to messages, letting the world dictate the rhythm of their life. But successful people, they're not reacting, they're leading. They don't ask, how do I fit everything into my day? They ask, what must happen today to bring me closer to who I'm becoming? Time is not their enemy, it's their ally. They decide what gets their attention. They decide what matters. And they show up to their calendar like it's a blueprint for their destiny. See, the masses are obsessed with time management tools, with planners, apps, techniques, but none of that matters if you don't first shift your psychology around time. If you believe time is scarce, you'll treat it with anxiety. If you believe time is abundant, but you have no direction, you'll waste it. But when you believe time is powerful, because you are powerful, you start commanding it. You stop saying, I don't have time, and start saying, it's not a priority. That's radical ownership. That's leadership. You can tell a lot about someone by how they treat an hour. Most people treat an hour like a drop of water in the ocean. They think it doesn't matter. But successful people, they treat every hour like it's a brick, and each brick builds their legacy. They don't throw bricks randomly. They place them with intention. They know what they're building. That vision drives their schedule. That purpose fuels their choices. And let me tell you, the most successful people are not the busiest. They're the clearest. They know what moves the needle and what's just noise. They're not trying to fill their day to feel productive. They're focused on results, on outcomes, on traction. They'll spend 15 minutes in a deep strategic conversation and get more done than someone else scrambling for 8 hours in confusion. Why? Because they're not asking how long something takes. They're asking what impact it delivers. They reverse engineer their day from the life they want to create. They don't just hope things fall into place. They engineer their future by deliberately allocating energy to what matters most. That's the key, energy, not just time. You might spend 2 hours on a task, but if your mind is scattered, your results are scattered. Successful people invest their peak energy into their highest priorities. That's not time management, that's life mastery. And don't think for a second this comes from talent. No, it comes from decision. You train this, you condition this, you build this like a muscle. You don't wake up one day commanding time. You earn that power by taking control one moment at a time, by refusing to waste another hour on things that don't feed your soul or fuel your vision. You stop negotiating with your distraction. You stop being available to everything. Because here's the truth. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And successful people are relentlessly aware of that trade-off. You'll hear people say, I wish I had more time, but that's the wrong wish. The wish should be, I wish I had more clarity on how to use the time I have. Because that's what it comes down to. Clarity, direction, intention. The successful aren't running faster, they're running smarter. They know where they're going, they know what they want, and they structure their day to reflect their destiny, not their distractions. They time block with purpose. They create rituals, rhythms, systems that align with their outcomes. Their mornings don't begin in chaos. Their afternoons aren't surrendered to overwhelm. Their evenings aren't lost to mindless activities. They've learned how to command time by commanding themselves. They don't let emotion dictate action. They've built discipline. They've built awareness. And that makes all the difference. Time is the most democratic resource on the planet. No one gets more, no one gets less. What makes someone legendary isn't more hours. It's what they do with the ones they have. It's how they show up inside those hours. It's the level of intentionality, the level of alignment, the level of commitment. That's what creates separation. That's what creates breakthroughs. So if you want to live like the few, you've got to stop thinking like the many. Stop waiting for the perfect schedule, the ideal moment, the magical burst of productivity. Start taking control of this hour. And then the next. Stack them, own them, command them. When you do, life bends, opportunities open, momentum builds. Because when you command time, you command your life. Let me remind you, you were not born to drift through your days. You were built to direct them. You were not meant to chase time, you were meant to master it. That power is already inside you. It's not waiting on a new week or a new year or a new app. It's waiting on you, your decision, your focus, your action. Make the decision now to stop managing your life like it's a to-do list and start living it like it's your legacy. Because every moment you command with purpose becomes a step toward the life you were born to create. The morning isn't just a time of day. It's a declaration. It's a signal to your mind, to your body, and to the universe that you're here to lead, to grow, to rise. The successful understand that how you start the day is how you shape the day. They don't roll out of bed hoping for motivation. They create it. They generate energy. They prime themselves for performance. Because the truth is, if you win the morning, you build momentum. And momentum is the invisible force that separates average from extraordinary. Most people sleepwalk into their day. The successful step into it with purpose. Before the world has a chance to pull at their attention, before emails, messages, or problems show up, they're already ahead. They use the early hours like a launch pad. They've built rituals that awaken their spirit, ignite their clarity, and unleash their strength. It's not about perfection, it's about preparation. They know that if they can command the first hour, they can influence everything that follows. It becomes a compounding advantage. One powerful morning becomes two, then three, and soon they're not just having good days, they're building an unstoppable life. The average person snoozes the alarm and delays the decision to engage with life. That one action, hitting snooze, is symbolic. It says, I'm not ready, I'm not in control. But successful people make the opposite statement. When the alarm rings, they rise. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They've trained themselves to associate mornings with opportunity. They don't see it as a burden, they see it as a gift. Because it is. Every new day is a blank page, and the successful don't let anyone else write on that page until they do. What do they do with that precious space? They align, they move their bodies, because motion creates emotion. A simple workout, a stretch, even a few deep breaths, it shakes off the residue of yesterday and floods their system with energy. They engage their mind, maybe with a book, journaling, meditation, visualization. They don't just dive into doing, they tune into being. They create inner clarity before outer chaos shows up. Because when the noise of the world tries to pull them off track, they've already anchored themselves. They've already decided who they are and how they'll show up. It's not about doing the same routine every morning. It's about owning the meaning behind it. Some will meditate. Some will plan. Some will declare their goals out loud. What matters is that it's intentional. It's sacred. It's designed to build the strongest version of themselves before the world makes its demands. That's why morning is the battlefield, and successful people win it before the fight begins. And here's the magic. It doesn't take hours. It takes decision. You can spend just 20 minutes with focus, and that 20 minutes can outperform 10 scattered hours later, because it's not just about time, it's about state. When your state is aligned, your energy, your mind, your emotions, you move through the day with power. You don't just react to challenges, you respond from a place of clarity. You lead, you create. you impact. Think about this. Every great performer, every visionary, every champion, they have something in common. They start their day with intention. It's not luck. It's not some secret formula. It's a commitment to meeting the day before it meets them. And you can do the same. You don't need anyone's permission to start winning your mornings. You don't need the perfect conditions. You just need to value your life enough to stop giving the first moments of your day to randomness. When you start your morning with clarity and strength, it builds a filter for the rest of the day. You don't get pulled into meaningless drama. You don't get stuck in other people's urgency. You operate from a higher place. That's why this matters. It's not just about productivity. It's about identity. Morning rituals aren't about checking a box. They're about reminding yourself of who you are, what you're here for, and what you refuse to settle for. That kind of clarity makes you unstoppable. And here's the truth. Some days you won't feel like it. Some mornings will test you. The bed will feel too good. The excuses will sound too reasonable. But that's the moment you separate yourself. That's where champions are made. Not when it's easy, but when it's inconvenient. When you rise anyway. When you do the work not because you feel like it, but because you've decided that your life is worth it, that your dream is worth it, that you are worth it. So stop treating mornings like a throwaway. Stop drifting through the start of your day like it doesn't matter, because it does. How you begin is how you build. The first battle is with yourself. And when you win it, the rest of the day follows. You start creating from a place of power, not pressure. And that's the game changer. You don't need more time. You need more intention. And there's no better place to put that intention than in the first moments of your day. You want transformation? Start in the morning. You want power? Create it before anyone else is awake. You want to live a life that breaks limits? Then stop starting your day like everyone else. Decide now that your mornings are no longer negotiable. They are your foundation, your edge, your weapon. And when you use them like that, life doesn't just change, you change. And that changes everything. Distraction is the enemy of greatness. It doesn't come at you like a roaring lion. It sneaks in silently in the form of pings, notifications, unnecessary conversations, and endless scrolling. And while the average person gets pulled into that noise without even realizing it, successful people have learned how to kill distraction and feed focus like their life depends on it. Because it does. Because it does. Because it does. Every breakthrough, every milestone, every moment of deep creation happens in the space of uninterrupted intentional focus. And if you want to build something meaningful, if you want to do work that matters, you have to protect that space like it's sacred. Most people don't lose their dreams in one big crash. They lose them in tiny moments. 10 minutes here, 15 there, chipped away by distractions that feel harmless in the moment. But successful people, they see those moments for what they are. Theft. Stealing their time, stealing their energy, stealing their momentum. They don't just manage distraction, they eliminate it. They understand that focus isn't a personality trait, it's a skill, it's a decision, it's a discipline you cultivate over time by saying no to what doesn't serve you and yes to what does, even when it's hard. Let's get something straight. Distraction isn't just external, it's internal. The mind wanders. The emotions flare up. The old stories come rushing back, telling you you're not good enough, fast enough, smart enough. And in those moments, focus becomes an act of courage. It's not just about keeping the phone on silent. It's about quieting the internal noise that tries to pull you away from what matters most. Successful people do the inner work to stay centered. They meditate, they reflect, they journal, not because it's trendy, but because they understand the battlefield isn't out there, it's in here. And they've trained themselves to win it. They build environments that support focus. They don't leave it up to chance. They set boundaries. They create rituals. They communicate with the people around them. They let the world know this time is mine. When it's time to work, they go deep. They don't multitask. They don't bounce between emails and tasks and social media. They go all in on one thing, knowing that real productivity doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less, but doing it with full attention. That kind of focus is rare. That kind of focus is powerful. And that kind of focus changes lives. I mean, here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Distraction often feels good. It gives you a little hit of dopamine. It feels like you're doing something. It numbs the discomfort of real growth. But successful people aren't interested in feeling good for a moment. They're committed to becoming someone who can handle the discomfort of focus, the tension of progress, the grind of creation. They don't chase stimulation, they seek alignment. And they know that the only way to feed focus is to starve distraction. That means saying no more often than yes. That means being okay with missing out on gossip, drama, and shiny objects that don't lead anywhere. That means turning off the noise, not just on your phone, but in your life. That means asking, what am I giving my attention to right now? And is it aligned with the life I say I want? Because if the answer is no, then you're lying to yourself. And successful people don't live in denial. They live in truth. Brutal, beautiful, liberating truth. They understand that focus is freedom. The more focused you are, the more progress you make. The more progress you make, the more momentum you build. And with momentum, everything becomes easier. Confidence rises, clarity sharpens, time bends in your favor. But none of that happens when you live in a reactive state, jumping from one thing to the next, never really finishing anything, always feeling overwhelmed. That's not how leaders operate. That's how the distracted live, and the distracted stay stuck. If you want to rise, you have to get serious about what owns your attention. You have to treat your focus like the most valuable asset you have, because it is. Your focus is the gateway to your creativity, your power, your genius. When you protect it, you step into your potential. When you let it slip, you trade your greatness for noise. And you've got to be honest. Are you feeding your future, or are you feeding your distractions? Are you choosing growth, or are you choosing comfort? There will always be something pulling at you. Always. The world isn't going to get quieter. You have to get stronger. You have to build habits that align with your vision. That might mean waking up earlier. That might mean deleting apps. That might mean sitting in silence when the urge to escape kicks in. But every time you choose focus over distraction, you build a part of yourself that's unshakable. You become someone who can trust themselves to follow through. And that self-trust is the foundation of confidence. So don't just hope for focus. Don't just try it when you feel like it. Train it, build it, fight for it, make it non-negotiable. Because when you learn to feed your focus and starve your distractions, you don't just get more done, you become more, you evolve, you rise. And the world will begin to respond not to your intentions, but to your attention. Where your focus goes, your life flows. So guard it, feed it, and let it take you where you were always meant to go. Success doesn't just come from what you do, it comes from what you repeat. Habits are the hidden architecture of every extraordinary life. They're the invisible systems that shape your outcomes, not just once, but day after day, hour after hour. The most successful people don't rely on willpower or bursts of inspiration. They rely on structure. They've built habits that make success automatic. While the rest of the world is trying to figure out how to stay consistent, they've already created routines that lock in their identity, fuel their performance, and keep them moving forward no matter what life throws at them. Think about it. Your life right now is a reflection of your habits, not your goals, not your dreams, but your daily behaviors. What you do consistently is what you become. And successful people understand this at a deep level. They don't hope for success. They engineer it. They design their environment, their schedule, and their mind to support who they want to be. They eliminate habits that drain them, and they double down on the ones that move them closer to mastery. It's not always about massive actions. In fact, it rarely is. It's about small, powerful actions done with discipline over time. Waking up early, reading instead of scrolling, practicing gratitude, reflecting, planning, executing even when it's uncomfortable. These may seem simple, but when repeated, they become unstoppable because habits remove friction. They eliminate the need for daily decision making. You don't have to ask yourself if you're going to do the right thing. You just do it because it's who you are. Successful people build habits with purpose. They're not just checking off boxes. They're aligning their behavior with their identity. They don't say, I want to succeed. They say, I am someone who does the things that create success. That shift changes everything. When your identity matches your actions, you become consistent. When you become consistent, results show up. When results show up, confidence grows. And with confidence, you take bigger risks, make bolder moves, and expand your life. But here's the key. They don't wait until they feel ready. They don't wait until motivation strikes. They start, even if it's small, because they know habits aren't about intensity. They're about consistency. Anyone can go hard for a day or a week, but the ones who rise are the ones who stay committed when it's not exciting, when it's inconvenient, when no one is watching. They keep showing up. They keep reinforcing the habits that build their vision. And they're not perfect. They miss days, they slip, but they don't let a slip become a slide. They recover fast. They have systems to get back on track, because successful people don't just build habits, they protect them. They guard their routines like a fortress. They understand that every time you break a habit, you weaken your identity. And every time you honor it, you strengthen your future. They also understand the compound effect. Most people underestimate what they can achieve in a year of disciplined action. They want results now. They want the outcome without the process. But the successful know that small, repeated habits done daily become massive change over time. 10 minutes of learning, 15 minutes of planning, a daily workout, a nightly review, it all adds up. The results aren't always visible immediately, but they're building, they're stacking, they're compounding. And then one day it looks like an overnight success, but it was built on 1,000 quiet, consistent actions. And here's something powerful. Habits don't just shape outcomes. They shape how you feel about yourself. When you follow through on your habits, you build self-respect. You send a message to yourself that you are someone who can be trusted. That self-trust is more valuable than any external reward, because when you trust yourself, you stop hesitating, you stop overthinking, you start living in alignment with your vision. The successful aren't lucky. They're intentional. They audit their habits. They ask, is this behavior leading me where I want to go? If the answer is no, they change it. They don't stay stuck in cycles that don't serve them. They don't negotiate with bad habits. They interrupt them, replace them, rewire them, because they know that every habit is either building your dream or destroying it. There's no neutral. And it's not about having dozens of habits. It's about having the right ones. A few core habits that anchor your day, that reinforce your purpose, that keep you grounded and growing. Morning routines, nightly reflections, regular goal setting, focused work blocks, consistent exercise. These aren't random. They're rituals of success. They keep the foundation strong so the vision can expand. If you want to elevate your life, you don't need more goals. You need more systems. You need to stop hoping and start designing. Design your day to match your destiny. Build the habits that make your success inevitable. Don't wait. Don't overthink. Start small. Start now. Because the life you want isn't built in one big leap. It's built in the quiet repetition of the right habits. Done with purpose, done with pride, done until they become a part of who you are. And when that happens, success stops being something you chase. It becomes something you embody, something you live, something you are. Energy is everything. It's the fuel behind every idea, every action, every breakthrough. You can have the best strategy in the world, the most detailed plans, the greatest intentions, but if your energy is low, none of it matters. Successful people understand this on a cellular level. They guard their energy like it's gold, because it is. It's the foundation of execution, the power source behind every move. They don't wait for energy to magically appear. They generate it, they protect it, they prioritize it. Because when energy is high, creativity flows, confidence soars, momentum builds. And when energy is low, everything feels like a grind, even the things you love. Most people walk around drained, not because they're doing too much, but because they're not doing what aligns with their purpose. They're spending their days reacting instead of creating, chasing tasks that don't move them forward, tolerating environments that dim their light. That's not fatigue from effort. That's fatigue from misalignment. Successful people make different choices. They know where their energy comes from and where it goes. They feed what fuels them and cut what depletes them. It's not selfish, it's strategic. Because if you're drained, you can't give, you can't lead. You can't build anything meaningful when your tank is empty. Physical energy is the starting point. You can't perform at your best if you're neglecting your body. Successful people treat their health like a non-negotiable. They move daily, not just for looks, but because movement creates vitality. It wakes up the nervous system, sharpens the mind, and elevates emotion. Even 10 minutes of intentional movement can flip your state from foggy to focused. They hydrate, they eat to fuel, not to numb. They sleep like it's sacred because they understand recovery is where growth happens. They don't wear burnout like a badge of honor. They recover like warriors. They treat rest as a weapon, not a weakness. But physical energy is only one layer. Emotional energy is just as critical. If your heart is heavy, if your mind is cluttered with stress and anxiety, you'll feel exhausted before you even begin. Successful people manage their emotional energy with intention. They know it drains them, whether it's toxic relationships, unresolved conflict, or living out of alignment with their values. They don't let negativity linger. They address it, they reframe it, they release it, and just as important, they know what fills them up. Whether it's connection, purpose, faith, nature, laughter, they actively seek out those things. They build them into their life because emotional fitness is as important as physical fitness. Mental energy is the next level. That's your focus, your clarity, your ability to make decisions and think creatively. Most people scatter their mental energy all day long, switching from one thing to the next, checking notifications every few minutes, getting pulled into low-value tasks. That fragmentation drains them. But successful people protect their focus. They simplify, they delegate, they time block. They create windows of deep work where nothing else exists, and when they're done, they truly rest. Because they know real mental performance comes from contrast. Periods of full engagement followed by full recovery. And then there's spiritual energy. You don't have to be religious to understand this. Spiritual energy is your sense of meaning. It's the belief that what you're doing matters, that your work is connected to something greater than yourself, that you're not just surviving, you're fulfilling a calling. When you have that, you can push through any obstacle. You can overcome any challenge because your energy isn't tied to external rewards. It's anchored in something deeper. Successful people take time to connect with that through reflection, prayer, meditation, solitude. They ask the big questions, they stay aligned with their mission, and that alignment becomes a source of relentless, renewable power. The beautiful thing about energy is that it's not fixed. You're not stuck with the level you have right now. You can create more. You can change your state in an instant by how you move, what you focus on, what you say to yourself. Successful people do this all the time. They don't wait for motivation, they generate it. They use their body, their breath, their words to shift their energy when it dips. They've trained themselves to be their own power source. And that self-generated energy becomes a superpower. Energy is contagious. Walk into a room drained and you pull others down. Walk in lit up, fully alive, and you raise the entire space. That's leadership. That's influence. That's impact. Successful people don't just manage their energy for themselves. They do it for the people they serve. They know the people around them feed off their presence, so they keep their energy clean. They take responsibility for it. They don't blame the world. They own their state. None of this happens by accident. It's a choice. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment to living at a higher level, not just occasionally, but consistently. And it starts with awareness. Ask yourself, what gives me energy? What drains it? What am I tolerating that's slowly stealing my power? What boundaries do I need to set? What habits do I need to shift? And most of all, am I treating my energy like it's precious? Because it is. It's the most valuable resource you have. And when you learn to master it, to protect it, to generate it, you become unstoppable. You become a force. You light up your world and everything changes. Success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to become ruthlessly clear about your priorities and absolutely disciplined about how you execute them. Every person gets 24 hours. What separates the successful from everyone else isn't time. It's how they use it. And the truth is, most people are busy but not effective. They confuse motion with progress. They fill their day with low-impact activities, chasing urgency instead of importance. But successful people think differently. They don't just work hard, they work smart. They don't try to do more, they do less, better. They operate with a laser focus on what moves the needle. The key is clarity. You can't prioritize what you haven't identified. That's why high performers are constantly asking themselves what truly matters, what's essential, what are the 20% of activities that will produce 80% of the results. They don't leave it vague. They don't operate from a to-do list a mile long. They zoom in. They define their outcomes clearly. And once they've locked in on the mission, they eliminate everything else. They don't negotiate with distraction. They don't let the noise of the world drown out their signal. They build their day around what matters most and defend it like their life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Successful people aren't afraid to say no. In fact, they say it more often than they say yes. Not because they're rigid, but because they understand that every yes is a no to something else. Every time you say yes to a meeting that doesn't serve your goals, a project that isn't aligned, a conversation that drains your energy, you're saying no to your vision, your focus, your greatness. They value their time because they know it's finite. Once it's spent, it doesn't come back. So they treat it with respect. They spend it on what brings the greatest return, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They also plan their day with intention. They don't wake up and hope to be productive. They wake up and execute a plan. They schedule their priorities, not just fit them in when it's convenient. They batch tasks. They time block. They create windows of deep work where they go all in without interruption. They review their day. They reflect on what worked and what didn't. And they adjust because they know that success isn't built on luck. It's built on deliberate, consistent act. And here's something most people miss. Prioritizing isn't just about what you do, it's also about when you do it. Successful people understand their own rhythm. They know when their energy peaks and when it dips. They schedule high-value tasks during their peak hours. Writing, strategy, decision-making, and they save low-energy tasks, emails, admin, for later. They match their most important work to their highest energy levels, because when you align time with focus, your effectiveness multiplies. They also understand that prioritization is a daily practice. It's not a one-time decision. Life moves fast. Things change, new opportunities show up, fires pop up. And that's when most people lose sight of what matters. They get reactive. But successful people stay grounded. They come back to their mission every morning. They realign. They ask, what must happen today to move me closer to my goal? And they lock in on that. No excuses, no hesitation. Let's be clear. This level of focus takes courage because prioritizing means disappointing people. It means being misunderstood. It means choosing long-term vision over short-term comfort. And not everyone will get it, but the ones who rise, they're okay with that. They're not here to please, they're here to build. They know that chasing everyone's approval is a recipe for mediocrity, so they lead their life based on principle, not pressure. They follow their path, not the crowd. And while it might look like they're working all the time, they're not. They actually rest more effectively. Because when you prioritize what matters, you earn your rest. You don't feel guilty. You don't carry unfinished business into your evenings. You're able to disconnect, to be present, to recharge, because you know you gave your best where it counts. That creates a deeper level of fulfillment, not just achievement, but peace. Success doesn't require superhuman effort. It requires intentional effort. It requires choosing your focus over and over again, even when distractions tempt you, even when the world tells you to spread yourself thin. It's not about being busy, it's about being effective. And effectiveness is a habit, a mindset, a discipline, one that anyone can build, but only if they stop chasing everything and start choosing what matters most. So ask yourself, what am I giving my time to that doesn't deserve it? What are the few things, if done consistently, would transform my life or career? What am I avoiding that actually deserves to be my top priority? These questions aren't just about productivity, they're about freedom. The more you focus on what matters, the more progress you make. And the more progress you make, the more empowered you feel. That's the difference between those who stay stuck in the noise and those who rise to the top. You don't need more time. You need more clarity, more intention, more courage to prioritize your future over your comfort. When you master that, everything changes. You start leading your life instead of reacting to it. You become the kind of person who doesn't just dream big, but executes big. And that is where real transformation begins.